All right. Lee Camp recently wrote an article for Truthdig, and it was titled "Everyone Has Fallen for the Lies About Venezuela." And just some background on Lee Camp. If you don't know, he hosts a show on RT called Redacted tonight. He's kind of an activist, comedian, and he, gives a lot of insightful political commentary. As I said, the show's hosted on RT, which is a Russian network. Now, you may ask, why is Lee Camp on a Russian network? Well, because MSNBC, Fox, CNN, CBS, NBC, whatever, they are all corporate propaganda outlets. If you look at their owners, they're owned by defense contractors, surveillance corporations. Their boards of directors sit on various, pharmaceutical boards, stuff like that. They're very, they all are members of the corporatocracy. Excuse me, and they can't be trusted, of course, because they are, their job is to spread disinformation, confuse the American public, and to make a profit. Okay, so Lee Camp's article on Venezuela. But before I begin, I would just ask that if you like this video, please hit the like button as well as the subscribe button. Thank you. All right, so he kind of, he kind of broke down what's this coup about, and who is supporting it, and what's going on. What supposedly, American overthrows governments, tyrannical governments to spread democracy. We are the tyrannical, if you could call it a government. I would call it a corporatocracy, an oligarchic corporatocracy, maybe, I don't know. So why this overthrow? Why are we trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government? Well, for one, he gives a reason. He cites the reason that they are socialists. They are declared socialists. Anybody, generally what socialist means in the United States, when we say government is socialist and we're hostile to them, is they are sharing some of the wealth from natural resources with the population, their own nationals, and not letting the corporations that that own us and that we give our tax dollars to, they're not letting those corporations come in and steal everything. So therefore they are socialists, because instead of practicing corporate socialism, which we practice in the United States, we bail out the banks, we bail out GM. They practice socialism where the average person might get some of the benefits. And so socialism. And I'll get into the socialist thing a little bit further. But the second reason he cites is they want to drop the dollar. So the dollar, the petrodollar, is the international, it's the international currency for buying and trading oil and various other transactions. And a lot of countries are sick of the United States, their invasions, their general aggressive and antagonistic attitude, their invasion, the invasions and so forth. And so they want to trade in other currencies. And when a country tries to do that, we invaded them. He points out two countries. Iraq was looking to sell their oil outside of the dollar. They were invaded. Libya, same thing. The petrodollar is the staple for the corporations right now, and it's also used with the Saudi. It's also tied to the Saudi royal family, with the deal that Nixon made back in the early '70s with the Saudis, that transactions would be in fact conducted in the petrodollar. And finally, the other reason he gives what this coup is about is they have one of the world's largest oil reserves, and the corporations that own part of the United States want the oil corporations, big oil. That's why we fight these wars. That's where your treasury was looted to make them profitable. Instead of going to solar or alternate green renewable energy, pollute the planet and get to invade countries and go bankrupt. You have that added perk. And so they want to snatch that oil, and you're going to pay for it because this invasion will be financed by you, as always, the American taxpayer or sucker or citizen, whatever, serf. And so what's interesting is that in this case, usually when we invade Iraq or Libya, the pretext is democracy, where we are like going to bring democracy to these people as if we had a democracy. What a joke, right? And what happened was Bolton's come out and said, Trump in some ways it's almost refreshing. He's done away with the bullshit, the platitudes. And Bolton went on TV and said, yeah, it would be good for our corporations to get that oil. They're not making any pretenses anymore. We are just going in like the, blitzkrieg, like a blitzkrieg and just taking over what we want to steal. As you can imagine, this has made us very unpopular on most of the planet, but that's how it is. And Lee Camp also went on to point out that the Maduro government, this is the government that's there right now, is corrupt. I mean, there's definitely wide-scale corruption. That's true all over South America, and that's true in our own government. Our government is as corrupt as any banana republic, any dictatorship in Africa. Our elections are rigged. The voting machines have been outsourced to private corporations. The oligarchs select your candidates, choose Hillary Clinton, choose Donald Trump, both which work on behalf of those corporations. And so, so who are we to tell anybody that, talk about corruption? We have one of the most corrupt nations on the planet. All right, going down some stairs here. It's a long way to the bottom. And so, but they may be corrupt, the existing government, but the CIA stooge we want to put in is going to be far more corrupt. These right-wing corporatists are even going to steal much more and treat their people even worse than the existing government. And the guy they want to put in is a guy named, his name is Guaido, if I'm pronouncing it right. And this Guaido, Lee pointed out, which was very interesting, he came to the United States, he was trained by the executive director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the guy he was a protege for this guy, this IMF executive director, who was also from Venezuela. So trained by this guy in neoliberal economics. No surprise there. And for those of you who don't know, the IMF is like works arm in arm with the military-industrial complex. So when we can't, there's two tactics. We used to use this one more. Now we're just bombing people. But the old style was you'd go in with the IMF. The IMF would bribe the local dictator, the worst, most horrendous, corrupt dictator, because that's the kind of person you want, brutal dictator, like in let's say Africa or wherever. So they would, this is your money, and your money finances this, by the way. All the countries of the Western countries chip in for this horrible, IMF. And what they would do is they go in, they bribe the dictator, they beef up his army, and they get the country in debt. And after the country's in debt, they make them pay through using their natural resources. They come in and steal all the natural resources, be it oil, be it various minerals, these multinational corporations. They destroy their local domestic economy, impoverish the people. It's kind of like the softer approach than actually coming in and dropping bombs on these people. And so, of course, you want an IMF, a CIA-backed IMF guy. That's what they're putting in, Guaido. So that's pretty logical as far as their plans go. What's interesting is that, you would think the liberals, the quote-unquote liberals, would be against this. Lee points out in his article that the so-called liberals like Rachel Maddow, Bill Maher, they're really neocons. The liberals today, the corporate Democrats, are the new neocons. And they actually like this, even though they're supposedly against Trump. They all work for the same. That's what you guys got to understand. The Republican Democratic duopoly is an illusion. They're owned by the same corporations, the same bank cartels, the same defense contractors. This is inverted totalitarianism, to use Sheldon Wallen's term. It's an illusion of democracy because you have two parties that are owned by the same interests. And so these so-called corporate Democrats are the neocons, and that's why you had Michelle Obama, hugging George Bush, going around the country trying to rehabilitate his image. They've been integrated. After the 9/11 coup d'etat, all the last vestiges of democracy were removed from the United States government. We are in a total dictatorship. This is a complete and total dictatorship. They let you think you're in a democracy because it's easier at this point than just declaring martial law and locking everybody up. But here's the thing. What they're trying to do in Venezuela, what they did all over the world, it's coming to us. This economy, they're stealing now. They're just going to naked theft because they can't. Even their own corporations are crashing. They're not oil. It's not viable anymore. The corruption has decimated their own companies, and that's why they're buying back their stock. That's why the Federal Reserve is pumping up their stock. And as this thing starts to collapse, they're going to do what they're doing in Venezuela, and we're going to have the black op torture sites like they had in the Middle East, the drones. The Pentagon is building robots, militarized like Terminator robots, like RoboCop. This is going to be bad. They do, just because this thing is going to collapse does not mean they want to give up their power. They want to rule over a destitute nation of slaves and serfs, not just here but globally. And rather than fix the problems, because oil is causing a lot of these problems, fossil fuels, we're fighting these wars, we're overthrowing governments. Rather than go to green renewable energy, a green energy new deal that would provide millions and millions of high-paying jobs, restore the middle class, they want to milk the existing system, poison the planet, poison the oceans. And the technology they're building, they want to, they're able to surveil you 24/7. You are watched 24/7. You are listened to through your electronic devices. And they are going to, at some point, they may decide it's better to just exterminate you. As the system breaks up to a point, these guys are probably going to make the Nazis look like, Mary Poppins or the Von Trapp family singers. These guys are horrific. These are evil people, these Boltons, these people in the Trump administration, whether it was the Obama administration, the Hillary Clintons. These are psychopaths. These are sociopaths. It's you or them. If they win, you are going to be, your nation's going to be, well, it's already gone. You live in a dictatorship. If things don't change, if there's not a change of governance, this is going to, we are going toward the collapse of civilization. This is really bad. And there's no more sitting on the sidelines. This is the Democratic Socialist Libertarian. If you dig the message, please like, subscribe, share. Feel free to sound off in the comments section. For more information, go to demsolib.com, Twitter, Instagram, @demsolib. Thanks for listening.